In this Challenger view, we're going to create our helper method to adjust the color of a game object. So I'm going to move the instructions over to a new screen, and I'm going to delete my player and utility helper from the previous example and reload these. So the first thing we need to do here is we're constantly changing the color of game objects within your game. Create a helper class that would let you turn any object you pass into it a color of your choice. So to do this, what we're going to do is we are going to create a new C# script for the player. And this is going to be a behavior script so we can check for input. We'll select our player, and let's drag this onto it. From there, we're going to create a new C# script that's going to act as our utility class. So we can call this helper methods. And on the helper methods, it's going to be a static class, doesn't need to sit on an object. So we need to remove MonoBehavior because it's static, so we can't inherit anything. So public static class. And because it's static, all methods must be static within it, as well as variables. So let's go ahead here and we're going to create our method for change color. So we're going to say public static void, and we'll call it change color. Now what we need to do is take an object as a parameter. So we're going to say game object, and we'll call it obj, which you're going to pass in and store it in obj. From there, we're supposed to determine a color value. So here we're going to say color, and then we can just basically call it color. So the color you're going to assign to it. It's going to be stored in that color variable. As a bonus, it says randomize the color. Well, how do we allow the opportunity to randomize the color? The way we can do that is we can create another parameter here that's going to be a bool, and we'll set it to random color equals false. So by default, it's going to be false, but if you were to pass in true, we can check for that game logic in here. So the logic here is we need to take the obj, and we need to access the material, and access the color, and equal it to the color value that we pass in. We also need to check if it's a random color. So before we do that, if random color basically is true, assign random color, and then we can assign it to that, the object here. So let's save this, and let's hop into our player script and create the input behavior. So within our update class, we'll hop into player, and we're checking for the space key. So if input.getKeyDown, we hit the space key. So we use keyChar.space. And now we need to say helper methods dot change color. And the parameters is I need to pass in our player object. So I say this.gameObject. I need to assign it a color. I'm going to say color.red. And by default, random color is equal to false, so I don't have to do anything there. If I wanted to, though, I can make it true, and then we can check for that condition. So let's test the red first before going forward. From there, I need to make sure that this works now. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're just going to take the object. We're going to grab the material of that object. So that's stored in the mesh renderer of the game object. So we say get component mesh renderer. Then we get the material, then we get the color, and because it's a property, you can see here that when I type color, it gives us the option to assign it or grab it. So it says get and set. So we can assign it a new color, and it's going to be the color that you pass into the parameter. All right, so we save this. We look at our player here. It should be red when I hit the space key. Right now it's a white player. And as soon as we run the application, I select my player. We have two scripts on it. I'm just going to hit the space key, and it goes red. So how would we go about randomizing it now? Well, let's open up our scripts. And what I need to do here is include a variable for random color. And I'm going to say true. That means that it doesn't matter what I put for color.red, for example. I want to generate a random color. So that means I need to check for that condition. So here, if random color equals true, I'm going to take the color value that you assigned previously and assigned it to color, and I'm going to reassign it. So to do that, I'm just going to say color equals a new color, and I can pass in a random RGB value. So random.value for the red, random.value for the green, and random.value for the blue. Once I've done that, that color is now overriding your color, and I take that color variable and assign it to the GameObjects mesh material. We'll save it. Let's hop into Unity, let Unity compile, run the application, and you'll see here that every time I hit the space key, we're now going to get a random color. And there we go. I'll see you guys in the next challenge.